Good morning, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is David Okun. Thank you so much for your support. And I'm talking about universal credit today. Like I have done previously, we are continuing from where we left. Last video, we reflected on life in the UK and across the globe, the financing, the income situation relating this to the cost of living crisis. Remember, when I began this program, I began with the cost of living crisis, which is topical, which is actually relevant to every aspect of our life today. And I'm so grateful to people who have been helping me, those who have been subscribing, those who have been leaving a comment, who have been sacrificing their time and supporting me along this process. We are a work in progress, and I'm so excited. Let's continue to support this channel by subscribing. We are talking about financial support in the United Kingdom and how this affects livelihood. And we have actually already said you have to claim what you need from the UK government for the UK people. The money, the financing is called universal credit. There are other types of benefit, but the primary one is now universal credit, which we have talked about. Watch this video alongside the rest of the video, and thank you so much. And evidence is always required when you are claiming, and if you have children, you can provide evidence about children. You can provide certificates for your children, things like birth certificate for your children. And if you don't have one, perhaps you lost it, perhaps something has happened to your document, you can actually order a new birth certificate. And this you can do on gov.uk. And when you are actually ordering this, you may have to pay a fee, because nothing is for free. And this is contradicting, because somebody going to claim benefit is automatically ready on low income. Continue watching, and I'm so excited. We continue to talk about this. I'm using a template system, like I have said before, and I'm also using the approach of recording my voice and linking this to a template of making. Leave a comment below if you think this is an interesting approach, and this is a temporary measure. It's testing to see how it works, and I'm so excited for everything. If things are going, continue watching. So we continue to talk about universal credit. We talk about claiming universal credit, evidencing the process. When you need to claim, you need to provide evidence. So if you have children, child benefit reference number may be the type of evidence the DWP, the Department of Work and Pensions, may want you to provide. So let us go on talking about evidence you need to take for your first interview with your mother, or if you're somebody who wants to provide evidence, and you can use the information from your child. You mention birth certificate for your children, and if that's lost, then you can order a new birth certificate on gov.uk, and you will have to pay a fee. You also need evidence from any childcare cost. We have talked about childcare, and it costs money as well. So these are all related to the cost of living crisis, the cost of living generally. But when the cost of living crisis, you need to bear that in mind. So you can look at evidence such as an invoice or a receipt from a nursery or a registered childminder. We talked about nursery and registered childminder. If you are actually wanting to produce evidence to get help with childcare costs, you need to have registered your child, your carer. You need to have actually engage with a registered child mother and also a nursery. These are actually formal infrastructure for childcare. And you can look at your child benefit reference number. So you talk about children and evidence. And child benefit is actually money given to children, and they have reference numbers. So you use those as evidence, reference numbers, and the how to identify reference number for child benefit. They are made up of any letters. You have about child benefit, and the reference number starts with CHB, which is child benefit. CHB, if you think about it, and it's made up of eight numbers and 2 letters. For example, CHB and etc. and AB or whatever. So a combination of letters and numbers, and 8 numbers and 2 letters, normally about 10 digits, so to speak. All these are nitty-gritty about evidence. It has to do with child benefit. So you talk about children. You can call child benefit office if you don't know the reference number. Normally, this referencing is actually needed to provide evidence for benefit, and you can actually contact them in different ways. Child benefit helpline, which is actually standard for children, for child benefit in specific terms. These are the numbers you can get on the website. These numbers are likely to be free of charge. If you have a phone deal that includes free calls to landlines, you can find out more about calling certain numbers such as 033 and 030 numbers. These are actually specifics. You need to also consider determine what kind of document you are actually handling. You need the right kind of document. So these details, but normally what they say, you can actually, if you don't have all the documents you need to claim benefit, you can take as many as you can. It's almost random. Continue watching. Thank you so much. I'm just going through information and provide analysis here and there. Thank you so much. Continue watching. So we carry on with universal credit. When you are claiming, you need documents. Sometimes you don't have the right documents, and normally when you are in a situation where you don't have the right document, the DWP will take trouble to actually deal with you with your claim, and even though you don't have all the documents, and they will allow you leeway to claim universal credit. But for not having the right document, because we are talking about the DWP having to trust what you tell them, you need evidence. That's government policy. We have said this before in the previous video. I'm repeating it here. I'll be repeating this information. They are complex. In my opinion, leave a comment below if you think they are not. If you think they are, let me know what you think about benefit system in the United Kingdom. I have said to pay attention what happened in the United Kingdom. Benefit is being used in this program to illustrate element of the public sector, or especially within the social policy or objectives, and within the delivery of these services in relation to government policy. The outlook of the public sector is to close in terms of the government actually dictating events with policy, with the idea of reducing the same, because this is actually relatable to government, and in the modern economic infrastructuring, the government actually, alongside other players of the economic environment, economic systems, there is a requirement for one reason or another to shut down the public sector. I've actually said this over and again. I'm so excited about it. Continue watching. Thank you so much for support and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And now let us carry on. We're talking about universal credit. This is money. Pay attention to this, because what happened in the UK is more or less likely to happen in your country, especially if you're in Africa. Find out if something similar could happen in Africa in terms of what money or support can be given by the government to people who might or might not need it, according to a viewpoint, a situation where sometimes the government feel the wrong people actually get benefit. So we'll talk about universal credit. And if you have evidence, you need to provide it when you are actually attending your interview at the job center. Job center is a place where you look for work, but now also where you claim benefit, also where you actually do many things to do with benefit, and also work, training, and related support. We spoke about claimants' commitment, if you remember. Otherwise, you can visit gov.uk, particularly here in the UK. But if you are having a government, which everybody does in every country, you can go to your government website to look for various information. Figure out if they actually provide something similar to what I'm talking about, especially if you are in the developed world, especially if you're in Europe and also in America. Particularly if you're in Africa, it's so interesting. Big African countries like Kenya, South Africa, Egypt, Nigeria, Ghana, and similarly, find out if they actually provide money for the citizen. If not, why not? But if you watch the rest of the video, you will form a view based on listening to what I have said. I'm not saying listening to this type of information is easy, but this is what I've set out to do going forward. And I'll be talking about it. Continue listening, continue watching, continue subscribing, continue sharing with family and friends, continue supporting this program. I'm so excited. I'm so thank you. I'm so grateful for your work, and to everybody who have been doing their best to actually be fruitful and productive. Looking back, going back to look at universal credit, claiming universal credit, looking at the documentations required, evidence to provide to the DWP, Department of Work and Pension, the department responsible for benefit and for work and for pension. The Department for Work and Pension, because you see the argument, the policy argument also, and also the parameter of policy is to get people into work, and if you work, you gain income, and when you gain income, then you do what you want to do. But we have discussed this also in terms of employment, and also the level of pay in the United Kingdom for the majority of the people. So benefit is actually an income factor, which is given people who work, people who don't work, people who actually work but don't earn very much, who may be sick, maybe having children, maybe having care needs, and all these are now being mentioned in this process, in this program. Pay attention, continue watching. Thank you so much for your support. So we'll talk about documentations, evidence you need to give when you are actually claiming universal credit, when you go to job center for your interview. And if you don't have all the evidence, the Department of Work in Pennsylvania will grill you, will ask you more detailed question, instead to make up for the gap, for the lack of evidence. Because unless they are satisfied, unless you give sufficient information in terms of documents, in terms of in other form, because when they ask you question, you answer, that is also a form of evidence. They want to know that you're telling the truth. which is what the process is looking like. That's what I'm trying to explain. Because sometimes people go to claim benefit, they are so frustrated. The process seems to be so complex, and it's also complex. But you need to know why the DWP is behaving the way it behaves, because it's government policy. It's not enough for the government that people are actually poor or they want benefit. The government actually want people not to steal benefit, and because the government thinking, especially politically, is that more people are actually corrupt. They're actually stealing benefit. People who shouldn't get benefit are getting benefit. But I kind of disagree with that, because you don't actually pretend when the problem is actually global. The problem is policy and politics, is ideological. Continue watching. I don't want to stray very far today from the focusing on the specific. There is a universal credit line, and you can actually contact this line. That means you can phone that line before your interview, and you can also explain why you won't be able to bring the right evidence. It's about evidence at this stage, and evidence or no benefit. You might be able to get more time, for example, if you need to order new copies of documents. But sometimes, like I pointed above, you may have to pay for some of these documents. Continue watching. Thank you so much. So continue watching. Thank you so much. And when you are contacting the Department of Work and Pension, DWP, in the United Kingdom, regardless where you're watching, we are in the United Kingdom. Please continue watching. Normally, they are contacted between Monday and Friday, 8 a.m. in the morning to 6 p.m. in the morning. That is actually the time when you can call them. The calls are free from mobile phones and landlines. These are some of the specifics, and there are routine which goes on in the department when they are trying to help people with money. So, like I've said previously, some of the information are actually repeatable, and some of the guidance, some of the advice given to claimants is, if you are actually in the process, because it's actually a process to get into benefit. It takes longer than you can imagine. I need to go take you through these processes, because I have said a lot. So my actually going through this process will justify some of the statements I've made, that the benefit process is extremely complex to get, also to maintain. If once you're in benefit, it's almost impossible to maintain it. And I already explained the reason for this, that because the government's attitude is now to close the public sector down. And the social sector, which the benefit falls under, is part of the public sector. I've said this over and again. I'm so happy I'm repeating this point. And within universal credit itself, as I am speaking about, little things like using the same phone number to contact the DWP, the same number you've given them initially when you are actually claiming benefit. Every time you are contacting the Department of Work and Pension, it is advisable to use the same number. It appears to me that it makes it easier for them administratively, and so they encourage people like that to kind of like behave in a certain way in a certain pattern. So if you put your number on the journal, on the universal credit journal, when you are claiming, every time you contact them, it's best to use the same number, so that it is easy for them to identify you and actually help them to also deal with you. Actually, you will have a shorter waiting time, and you might be put through to the same person who handled your previous calls, the previous calls you have made. This is actually because of trying to produce efficiency with an overly strict staff at the Department of Work and Pension. This is repeatable across the public sector, but also the private sector, because employment. If you employ somebody, it presents a major cost of to the economy, to the business, which actually the Department of Work and Pension is a government business. When you employ recruit civil servants, actually it costs the government a lot of money. So now we are actually trying to introduce technology including artificial intelligence, into the government departments. I'll mention that in relation to my talking about the technology. So when I mention these things, they are actually going to be relatable. Eventually, I hope they are now relatable entities to the things I'll mention later. Now, we are talking about the interview. Think about what you're going to say. Prepare for your interview when you're actually going to do an interview, because you have to do a proper interview at the Department of Work and Pension. They ask you questions, you answer questions, and you will need to agree with your work, what work task you need to do in return for universal credit. Universal credit is not free. You have to pay for it by making promises to the government that you're going to look for work, and also you have to specify what kind of work you're going to be doing, the kind of tasks you will be doing, work tasks as they call it, and to be very specific. If you're an admin or whatever, good at computer, whatever skill you have, you discuss it with them, so they actually put it down as part of your claimant commitment. And this actually, in return, you get your universal credit. Universal credit is not for free. Sometimes you actually work for it without pay, and this is a government policy. If the government changes policy tomorrow, it will simplify the same system, but now it's very complex and it is so tedious. A lot of people are actually depressed about universal credit, and this actually is, like I said, it's called claimant commitment. You commit to the Department of Work and Pension, you promise them something in return to the money they give you. And it's like a barter trade almost. They give you money, you work for them. And you make promises to participate in training, to participate in looking for work and training, and also sometimes doing work experience, doing all sorts of programs. So you will agree this with your work coach at your interview and sign if you agree. You actually sign, and like a contract. And like I said in the other videos, there is something called benefit sanction. When you actually break this agreement, then it will lead to benefit sanction, which I said is very wrong. I think the government has made the benefit system is like I don't know what is so can be so complicated. It's like doing brain surgery, and I mean it's almost like dealing with the devil, because everything is like a nightmare. The Department of Work and Pension trying to claim benefits like a horror story, and you don't want to know. And I know this because I speak to people who are actually struggling. I'm an advisor. I'm a professional advisor, so I'm talking. Saying what I know. I'm not talking something I don't know. I know what I'm talking about. People cry to me on the phone, because I do telephone advice at the moment. Since COVID-19, I actually work from home, and people cry. People who actually don't even see me. The last time I spoke to a client, she really commended me. She was so happy. She said I was such a kind person. I was so surprised, because I feel I should do more for these people. They really struggle, but we are so under pressure because we lack really staffing, and we have to really be overstretched. Be giving advice is extremely complex, and even I learn every day. I've done it for nearly 7 years. Continue watching, and I'll continue just discussing this with you. It's a privilege, it's an opportunity. Thank you so much for subscribing and for sharing, clicking notification bell, and clicking like, leaving comment. I'm so grateful, and continue helping and watching. Thank you so much. Continue watching. We are carrying on talking about universal credit. So you plan for your interview. First interview, you figure out what you're going to say there, and you will need to agree with the work coach what tasks you will need to do in return for universal credit. Universal credit is not for free. It is in exchange for your commitment, which it sounds actually perfectly normal, but if you see the practicality, you hear people. And my disagreement will benefit, in the first place, benefit of any sort, or even employment, is actually the level of pay. the level of pay, the objective in terms of policies to get the British people out of poverty. And this policy should be in Europe and America and all the rest of the continent in Africa and Asia. There is enough wealth in the world. So if you look at the way the benefit system operates, that is also how the public sector operates. And eventually how the private sector will operate. If you're poor, expect very little. So let us go back to talking about universal credit. And you make this agreement with your work coach, and you sign this agreement with your work coach. It's a contract in exchange for benefit. And it is important to be as open, as honest as possible about your situation, so your work coach understands what you can and you can't do. Normally, people actually want to impress, because people actually, the default position is actually to sell yourself. This is a world we live in. You want to impress people, even if you have limited experience. But some people go over the top, because you can understand, because people want to find work. They believe the Department of Work and Pension is there to support them to work. So you tell them certain things, experience, which I would say people lie, but people normally try to portray themselves as yeah, if you're going to look for work, actually you're going to have to sell yourself, your skill. But sometimes there is a gap, such that if you say something to the work coach, you have to actually keep to it. If you say you have certain skill, you have to provide proof also from with CV and all these things. All these things are actually conditions for claiming benefit. That's the reason I'm talking about it, and also to show why there should be a separation between benefit and work and or another requirement. Benefit should be free, should be unconditional, because these people are poor. It's not like they want to claim benefit. Benefit is an insult. Employment is an insult, because it doesn't even take you. It actually deepen you into poverty. I mean, people who are actually middle class earners or upper middle class earners who work for a living may not understand what I'm saying, simply because they are insular. They look at themselves. They don't really pay attention to what is going around, the situations around them, which is a failure of culture. I've said this. I don't want to stray away from universal credit. There's a temptation to stray away. Let me stick with this a constrict, if you like to call it that way. So explain what you can do is to work, what work you can do, maybe admin, maybe computer, maybe catering, maybe care work. Explain it to your work coach. Your work coach will ask you about your skills and the type of job you're looking for. And if you have a job, and you might be expected to look for a better job, a better paid job, or work more hours. That's the kind of attitude you can find with the DWP. It's about work, work, work. If you're working already long hours, I mean, how long, how longer, how much longer? I mean, you have a life, and for the government actually to require you to work harder, so that so that you don't get any benefit at all. It seems like a good idea, like a novel idea. Everybody wants to work, everybody wants to succeed, but you see, people need to understand the idea of work. Work for somebody else is actually not a good thing. Employment is not good. Self-employment is good, because at least you have opportunity to exercise your creativity. So you own it, you have dignity. You own your own boss, and that is where the government should head, lead the world. Actually, Britain should lead from Britain, and also the rest of the world should lead from the rest of the world, so that people, instead of being employed, instead of being in benefit, I actually promise not to stray from universal credit. People should really be self-employed, because there is dignity. Benefit is an insult to the world, and it's evidence of violence, and that's what benefit does. But now we are stuck with it. If you need help, you have to. Sometimes you have little choice. Sometimes the only choice you have is benefit. If you don't claim benefit, sometimes you're going to die. Because where are you going to get food? Where are you going to get energy? Where are you going to get housing? I have said this, and let us go on with the specifics. And so you agree with the specific, the type of work you're looking for. If you have a job, you might be expected to look for a better job, paid job, and or work more hours. And they might ask you what you qualifications or experience you have, and take your CV or any training or qualification certificates to the interview. And these are actually so that to keep this record to actually figure out what kind of work you might be able to do, and how much you want to earn, and tell them what you have earned in previous jobs. We have the minimum wage, which is actually supposed to be raised, in my opinion, at least should be raised from £10 to £20 or even £30 to get the British people out of poverty. That should be the objective of employment and benefit. Then not to mention self-employment. So these are some of the issues you can take away. So how many hours you can work each week? I think there's a statutory maximum you are required within the EU working directive, and I think working time directive, something like that. But Britain has actually Brexited. So I don't know if EU still EU policy still influence employment policy in the United Kingdom. I don't know whether to choose between Britain and the EU or the other European countries, but it's for you to find out if you are actually paid more in other countries than in the United Kingdom. So you need to determine how many hours you can work each week. You need to give your work coach a good reason if you can't work full time, and like if you've got health problems or caring responsibilities. That is, if you're sick, or you are a carer. These are some of these factors you look at specifically. So you actually consider where you could work, explain anything that limits where you can travel. For example, if you don't have a car, you can get carers advice and help looking for work on the National Careers Service website. So there's something called National Careers Service website. I've never seen it myself, but I think it has to do with careers. I don't know what they do, but you can get careers advice, and you get help looking for work on the National Careers Service website. So that is interesting, and you get careers advice. And my suspicion would be such an organization is probably a private company or a charity or a non-profit organization. Because of privatization, these things are happening. It's a way of now dismantling the public sector. So you have all sort of organizations being funded by the government to provide public sector, to prepare the public sector for closure. Every time you see all these small organizations are now being funded by government, but they are not really government businesses, and it's evidence of privatization. So you can also you are supposed to tell your work coach about your situation, and these are general consideration. So you can tell your work coach about anything that affects your ability to work or look for work. Some of these things might be hard to talk about, but it's worth discussing them, as they may affect what you will have to do to get universal credit. And example of such a thing would be, for example, you might need to tell your work coach if you have children, if you have a disability or health condition, look after someone with a disability, or the partner, a child or young person who was died in the last 6 months, means when you are suffering from bereavement. These are actually circumstances they will take into account for when they are trying to assess whether or not you will be able to work or how you might be able to work. And if you are being treated for a drug or alcohol problem, you find it difficult to read or write, you're homeless, have to do jury service, or still will struggle to pay for travel, your work coach might be able to give you money to help. These monies are there, but they are not much. They are not there to get you out of poverty. But this is what I'm saying. All these are actually broken down. There are very many things which actually you have to have a professor or have a PhD in benefit in order to be a successful benefit claimant. But nevertheless, people struggle and it is so challenging. A lot of people are actually, it's getting worse, the situation is not getting better. So you can tell your work coach if you have experienced domestic abuse in the last 6 months. You might not have to take on any work-related requirements for 13 weeks. This is domestic violence or domestic abuse, and you talk about 13 weeks, which is actually a few, probably 3 months, more than 3 months, and then you take time off. And when you talk work-related requirement, can be actually being actually required to attend mandatory training, training like employability and training for skills, maybe English, maths, and maybe just work experience. It could be interviewing techniques or how to apply for jobs, how to use computer, or taking computer training, which is funded by the government. All these are actually there to keep you busy because the government attitude is that when people are not kept on their toes, they will be actually working and claiming benefit. In other words, the government thinks benefit claimers are actually thieves. They are benefit cheats. It's a bad attitude from the government. It's a sign that the government is really poorly educated about the British people. British people may be poor, but they have their dignity. They are not thieves. It's an excuse from the government for failing to run the country effectively for everyone. Only running the country in terms of wealth and opportunities for the few and actually neglecting the many. It's a form of abuse, a political abuse by especially, the Conservative Party and New Labour. And because they are in it together, and they have actually destroyed this country alongside with their fellow capitalists across the globe. They have destroyed the world because violence is a very dangerous thing, especially economic violence, and it relates directly to security. That's why there is war all the time, because the injustice is just latently very dangerous. Let's go back to talking about universal credit anyway. And like I said, you can agree your claim and commitment with your work coach after you have told your work coach about your situation, and they will tell you what work-related activity group you will be in. So there are different groups in something called work-related group for work-related activity. Each group has different tasks to get ready for work. They could be applying for jobs or updating their CVs. And like I said, so you have certain groups on what such a group will do. Some groups have actually no work-related requirements. These are certain groups who are not required to do work-related activity. And in this, under what you will do, what you will need to do, you don't have to do anything to prepare for or look for work. I will discuss this further, this element, as we go along. There is work focus interview group. So you have to go to regular meetings with your work coach, and or whatever you do there. It's a work focus interview group. These are people who are actually let's say they say they are repeat offenders in terms of benefit claiming. They are so tediously, according to the government, they are tediously lazy, and so lazy that they have to be treated like people with mental illness or actually with emotional problem, or like thieves who are actually caught on the marketplace, who are trying to steal something which doesn't belong to them. That is actually, in my opinion, the government attitude, the way they treat benefit claimers, like prisoners, like some ex-offenders, they have to really treated like that to be harassed out of benefit. Because the motive of the government is to get people out of benefit. It's not really to get people into work, and it is hypocrisy, which is actually an excuse, a failure of policy to actually look after the country effectively for everyone. It is actually a form of insanity, political insanity, which has produced a lot of violence in a country like Britain. There is the quiet violence, you wouldn't even know it because it's insidious. It's actually like a cancer eating inside your skin, under your skin, inside your, your inner core, like killing you softly. It's a very cruel system based on the long history of slavery in the Western Empire, and since Africa, since colonialism, it has carried on the violence, the First and Second World War, the Cold War, and you name them. We still have traces of violence in the Middle East, and like in Afghanistan, in places like Iraq, Iran. The evidence are there. You don't look for it. You know that we are savages as a species. And like I said, my idea today was actually to focus on the specifics of this information. But sometimes I can't help myself, to kind of like stray a little to, so that people wake up. You have to wake up and teach yourself respect. And I say this again and again. It's not just the government, but it's a human problem, because you see, humans are failing culturally. Culture means valuing humanity, respecting humanity. A government which respect people do not put people through this this horrible system of benefit. So I'll go back to looking at the groups and what they need to do. So there are a certain group called work preparation group. You have to meet your work coach regularly and also prepare for work. This includes things like writing a CV and going on training or work experience. I've already mentioned that. I'm just going through them. So you talk about all work-related activity groups. You have to do all you can to find a job or earn more. This includes looking for jobs, applying for jobs, and going to interviews. Even if you work, there's no peace for the wicked, because if you are on benefit, you are actually considered by the government to be a wicked person. You are very lazy, scrounger. That's the language, especially the Conservative Party politicians have been using such words, scroungers. I don't even know what it means. Leave a comment below if you know what scrounger means. It must be something like a horror story. And this is a big joke, in my opinion. And the politicians in this country and in the rest of the country should really get more serious. The lack of seriousness within the humanity is appallingly manifesting in little things, such as we see here how the benefit system operates. So your work coach will write your task on your claim and commitment. It's like you are from a prison, you're ex-offender on rehabilitation, construction. And that is how workers have always been treated like that for decades, Now it's coming home to roost in a more colorful and really extraordinary fashion. And the public sector is in its dying days. And whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, leave a comment below and let us know. But good or bad, we need British people out of poverty. The government needs to do that before it shuts down. It can shut down today, tomorrow, or the week to come. But my opinion stands and remains. The British people must get out of poverty. People of the world must get out of poverty today, on the one hand. On the other, we hope the entire human population of the world should go back to school to learn respect. Respect yourself, respect other people. This is the preaching. I am so excited to be talking about this. Every time I talk about this, I feel better. I feel like, it is experiencing a healing process. Everybody should talk about their situation of their family, their community. We need to take responsibility for our lives, for the life of the people we care about. The things is about care. If we do genuinely care about our people who live now in our society, especially people in power now, have taught themselves to behave worse than animals. They are so savage and they are so cruel, they are so violent. This manifests in how benefit is treated, and there are exceptions to signing a claim and commitment. There are people who don't sign claim and commitment. Like you don't have to sign a claim and commitment. For example, if you are terminally ill, if you're going to die maybe within 6 months, the government, I don't know the logic around that. If you are dying 6 months, I mean, what's wrong with signing claimant commitment? If it is bad enough for a terminally ill person, it's bad enough for somebody who is not terminally ill. So that is actually betrayal. That is actually a betrayal of how evil the benefit system is, because there are actually rules which say if somebody is dying maybe within 6 months or 12 months, within maybe 24 months, they shouldn't claimant, they shouldn't sign claimant commitment. That means claimant commitment is done to punish people who actually claim benefit. And now, to show some compassion, they are now excluding terminally ill people. So your court agrees you don't have capacity to understand the claimant commitment. So it is up to the court to decide that you don't have the capacity to understand the claimant commitment. If that is the case, maybe you are mentally ill, maybe you are depressed. I don't know. They are not medical doctor, and they are the first to say that they are not medical doctor. How do they decide that? Probably they have to rely on the medical report. But going forward, and up to, if you watch the other videos, I've actually criticized health assessment process, which are done by people who are not even people who know nothing about health. I mean medicine or medical care, or they're not even carers. They're not even clinicians. They know very little or even nothing. These are demonstrators who carries out health assessment. The purpose is to prevent sick people from getting sickness benefit. That's why I say to the government, close down sickness benefit and close down all these other elements of universal credit. Just one benefit is enough. Just raise the level up and give it to people who are poor to get them out of poverty. They are not going to be rich, you see. But I have said it elsewhere. I say, the system being governed by people who are actually mentally ill themselves. The people in government, most of them are actually psychopaths. They are very, very, very mentally disturbed because they are so violent. They use power to rule over other people. And this is now normalized. It's now treated as culture. But it's a broken culture. Government ruling over people is nonsense. And they say it also that it is not right for the government to rule over other people. They call themselves leaders. They call themselves, they're trying to help the country. This they are, because evil has become necessary in the form of a government, in the form of a state. Evil has become necessary. And if you see, I saw recently Joe Biden in America addressing the Congress in America, the American Parliament. I was so shocked how the Congress looked. It's like there are two countries. In fact, not even countries, not even continent. It's like the Republicans are from another planet, and the Democrats are from one planet. I don't know which one is which. I don't know which one is the Earth, or which one is Mars, or Venus. They, they just like, they call themselves America. They call themselves Americans, and yet the Democrats were clapping and shouting. They were so happy because the president is a Democrat, and the Republicans were like at a funeral. I saw it. I mean, it is recorded somewhere. You go and watch the State of the Union address by Joe Biden, President of America. You will see the Democrat was so happy, and the Republican were like attending a funeral. They were so sad. And I thought to myself, this is America. America is supposed to lead the world. Let us go back to universal credit. I will do a reflection, maybe to later to tomorrow. But let us look at these specifics and leave a comment below what you think about how the world behaves. And our culture needs repairing. And all this evil we see, even in the benefit system, is actually a symptom. And is reflecting how evil we humans have become. We have an opportunity to change. And then look at this situation. So you of course agree you don't have the capacity to understand the claim and commitment. and your work coach agrees it's unreasonable to sign a claim on commitment because of exceptional circumstances. So they decide, and you talk to them, and they decide this is unreasonable. I don't know when it is reasonable and when it is unreasonable. I don't know the meaning of reasonable. Leave a comment below if you know what it means. And I have always struggled with that word, and it's used very frequently in legal and policy documents, and I struggle with it. So to agree that you don't have capacity, your work coach need to see evidence. For example, if you have a severe learning disability difficulty, your work coach won't automatically decide you don't have capacity. If you need something to help, with your claim. So think that situation like that. You have it, and you need evidence. Exceptional circumstances can be any unusual situation, which makes it very difficult for someone to agree. Make it difficult for you to agree your claim and commitment. So, for example, you might not have to sign a commitment if you have an emergency at home, and if you are in a hospital and likely to stay there sometime. I don't know what emergency would affect your claim on commitment, because claim on commitment is a long-term commitment. So, are you going to have an emergency every day? I don't know. Because if to keep to your claim on commitment may be applicable when you talk of emergency. Maybe you have a gas leak in your home, or your home is on fire or something like that. But it's easy to say, but not very easy to say, because the bureaucracy is stiff, and it's a life and death almost. Because if you do any slight mistake, you're going to lose your benefit, and this is a very serious matter now. Benefit sanction is the worst form of behavior in the world, and and the rich people in power, actually abusing people who are poor. So you can find decision makers guideline and something like that. I mean, there's information on the internet. You can always look around and find out what you need to know. And so you make sure your claim and commitment is right for you. So we'll talk about customer service from the DWP, which is a nice way, because you are actually referred to as a customer at the Department of Work and Pension. The government department refers to its service users as customers. I don't know why they do that, because it used to be referred to them as clients, and in the hospital there are patients. Because of privatization, the public civil service now refers to their children, to their service users as customers. It's a commercial terminology. Maybe now you have to really tell the Department of Work and Pension what you need, what you want is customer focused service. It's kind of like, so to speak, make sure your claim and commitment is right for you. It's quite nice. It's quite touchy. It's very commercial like, very business like. It's like managerial, and which is really look good on paper, but people suffer because of that kind of situation. Because people go there because people are so at risk. They don't even want to go anywhere near the job center, the Department of Work and Pension, to claim benefit or even to look for work. Looking for work is so humiliating, and claiming benefit is so humiliating. It's a form of abuse by the state. People should really be respected. People should respect themselves. The government should respect the British people, and make employment pay, and make, if you're going to really allow British people to claim benefit, have some respect for them. You see, people don't have to go to science. People are not children. These people are mature. They are even cleverer than some of the politicians. They're just poor, and they are being treated as if they are suffering from mental illness. You say something, nobody even respect you, not even listen to you. That is what happened in the Department of Work and Pension, and that it's being allowed by politicians. I'm not accusing the civil servant; they are victims. They are actually civil servants are actually being victimized the same way as people they serve. They are so overstretched. They work like they are dealing with some really horrible situation. People who work for the Department of Work and Pension, people who work for this for Justice Department, people who work for different part of the civil service, especially in the local government, because there is a lot of chaos and there's a lot of confusion because of one thing: lack of funding, and we don't even realize that. And let us go back to doing what we are trying to do. Here, I've actually touched something very interesting. Continue watching. So we will talk about the customer service at the Department of Work on Pension, Universal Credit, as an illustration of what happens in the public sector, but also the Department of Work on Pension in itself. So if you feel like you can't do any of the tasks on your claim and commitment, tell your work coach, which is very nice in theory. Explain to them why you will struggle to complete the task, because sometimes your benefit can be stopped if you think you are not able to do certain things. Ask them to consider changing the task you have to do, or how often you have to do them. If you have a health condition or a caring responsibility, you can ask your work coach to reduce the number of hours you are expected to look for work. So if you're actually caring for someone or maybe some other form of, which is reasonable, actually reasonable, but I don't have complaint with that. But I want the overall decency. I want some level of decency with the government. The government should get better, not worse. That is my own comment. And there should be more money given to people who are poor. And I am only talking about benefit. I haven't even talked about housing. And if I start talking about housing, you'll be shocked, the problem at housing. And healthcare, you'll be very shocked. What problem is there? In school, children are going without food in schools. Like children in third world countries. In third world countries, sometimes even grow their own food. Their children actually run around without clothes or without shoes, and they're happy. But life in a country like the United Kingdom is like living in a concentration camp. If you're a poor person, you see, you are actually in a prison. You are not even allowed to go anywhere. You lock yourself in. You lock yourself in a bus or in a car. If you're driving, you lock yourself in your car. You lock yourself in a train. And you go and lock yourself in a toilet. You lock yourself in the office. If you're going to work, you're in prison 24/7. What kind of life is that? Where is the freedom we're talking about? The park is closing down. The park is becoming more dangerous with crime on the rise because people are disrespectful. Crime, I mean, we are not supposed to rely on the law to make us do what is right. We are supposed to be humans. We are supposed to be educated people who know what is right and wrong through education, through proper parenting, parents leading by example in schools. Teachers are leading by examples. So, we can sit here and talk about it, but let us go back to looking at the system of universal credit. So, your work coach has to consider your request and be reasonable. I don't know what reasonable is. Leave a comment below if you know what reasonable is. If they don't change your claim and commitment, you can ask for a different member of staff to review the decision. But there are no staff members. I mean, your benefit may delay if you're actually trying in the process of claiming benefit. You may not get benefit in practice because there are no member of staff. The DWP is closing down. You see, I used to work there as an advisor on Help to Claim, a project called Help to Claim. and and increasingly the organization now look not just the Department of Work and Pension, the hospital, the tax office, for example, they're not looking like ghost town because they're shutting down. And if you comment below if you think public sector is closing down, and not just the public sector, small and medium businesses are closing down, and eventually big businesses will start closing down. The whole economy will close down, which is in itself is not really a bad thing, as long as technology is there to run the economy. Because my argument has been that economy can close down in a good way because technology will start running the economy, producing goods and services and no extra cost, which will trade will stop. You don't have to sell anything, you don't have to buy anything because machine will do everything, producing food, producing energy, building houses. 3D printer, my understanding, is now being tested in countries like China to actually build houses, to build structures. 3D printer to build a house, to build cars automatically. I have really not been following it very much, but also consider nanotechnology. These are areas I've been talking about repeatedly. They're very exciting, very, very exciting times. And we can do more with our lives. Going back to universal credit, so when you struggle to complete work-related activity in your claim and commitment, you might be able to change them. Find out how to change your claim and commitment. All these things are actually part of the process. And there's also something I'm going to talk about briefly about something, a flexible support fund. I've been looking for this name. It's a money, discretionary money given to people to complete supplement other. That's what I say. The benefit system. Why should the government break the benefit system half? Do you see the reason is that because it's easy to close it down, because like flexible support fund can be closed down, people will not even know about it. Actually, a lot of people don't even know flexible support fund exists. If you ask somebody, if you ask somebody that, do you know what a flexible support fund is they don't know anything about it. It's a form of benefit. You can get it from the DWP, and you can also actually ask about it. How can you ask about something you don't know it exists? That is actually the nature of benefit, because some people don't even know universal credit exists. Some people don't even know how to claim pension when they retire. They don't even know you should claim pension, otherwise you're not going to be paid pension if you don't claim it. How are you going to live? The government doesn't care. Because you see, there should be members of staff phoning every household in the United Kingdom. Did you get benefit? Are you working? There is work here. Can you would like to try work? But you see, these are fantasies, at least in Wonderland. Because in the real world, these things do not exist. Capitalism are not designed to produce, to create jobs. They are there to make money, to create wealth. Let's not confuse money, wealth with work, and the two are totally different. And going back to this situation, flexible support work is money you might get to help you pay for things like travel costs, training, courses, childcare costs, mobile phone, interview clothes, identity documents, um, and you won't need to pay the money back. So it is a grant. A grant is an opposite of loan, if I'm correct. I'll leave a comment below and let me know. Make sure you tell your work coach why you would help, as they don't have to give it to you. It is discretionary. Discretion means it is up to the work coach to decide, and normally in practice they don't actually give it unless you are actually. If you go and tell them I've got a job interview, because the purpose of benefit, the purpose of the DWP is to get people into work. It's nothing else. But that is what the government say. But I would say to get them out of benefit, because benefit is money. The government do not want to spend money on the public sector. That's why it's about money. It's not even about jobs. The government doesn't care whether people work or not. They only care if they're in trouble, because if it gets them into trouble politically. So the government is so corrupt because of the people who run the government, and that is actually nothing. I'm not picking on them because they are the same as everybody else. We are corrupt. as a people. We have to understand that. I'm saying this because I believe we can change. If we can be corrupt, we can be good people. It's about learning our culture. It's about respecting ourselves. It's about changing the way we developing a good, a better habit. Being good people. But and if you look at the way benefit system, I mean, my contention with any income related project from the government is the level of pay, especially the level of pay if you're working, the level of pay if you're on benefit. Those are actually the two primary sources of income in the UK. Perhaps also around the world, because you either work self-employed or you work as employed. There are category of work, but those are technicalities. You're just either you are employed or self-employed, or you're on benefit. That's it. And my thinking is that in a world full of wealth, if we are not evil as a species, in a world full of wealth, we should consider raising the level of benefit, the level of pay, to get the British people out of poverty, to get the people of the world out of poverty. I mean, what are we doing? So go back to what we are saying here. So you won't need to pay it back, like I said, but it's discretionary. So you need to have signed your claimant commitment and can only use the money for something agreed with your work coach. That is not freedom. It doesn't sound like freedom to me, and that should be scrapped. It's a useless initiative. It's actually crafty. It's like the government is acting like as a thief, because you tell the world you are helping, but you don't in practice. So why do you tell people you are helping the British people? Yeah, we are helping, and the politicians are the first to go on camera to say they calculate this kind of money into their budget report. This is false. It's a false calculation, because in practice, people don't really get benefit the way they should. And they are suffering from sanction. Sanction is aimed at reducing benefit. The government of David Cameron, Prime Minister Cameron, now Lord Cameron, he said when he was campaigning, they are going to reduce benefit. And they did. And they are doing it. They don't reduce because somebody is doing something wrong. Because their political agenda is to close down the public sector. They're reducing everything. They are now, if you look at housing policy now, people are not able to get onto the council property anymore. It's gone. If you look at it critically, because it's so complex, the housing law is completely complicated, and you don't even know what they are talking about. People are so confused. People are so manipulated into going into private rented accommodation when they are actually eligible. They are actually qualified to get housing, public housing. The argument for public housing should come back onto the political table agenda, onto the discussion table. And this has to be done. I say to the British government, build enough houses for the British people and give it freely to them. People on benefit, people who on minimum wage, let them get free property permanently. Don't even disturb them. They are not stupid. These people are just poor. Build houses. If there is a family, build 2 bedrooms, 3 bedroom houses. There is wealth. Borrow money from the royal family, from multimillionaires and multimillionaires, and build houses for the British people. And they don't need even to actually fill any form. You have the statistic, you have information on people, you have information. When I go to the hospital, you have my database. You know, we live in an information age. There is data. Recruit people to actually do the assessment, do a study on what do you call population assessment, population. I can't remember what it is. When you are counting the population, when you're doing a population census, when you're doing population census, you fill the form once. The information on an individual on the computer. If they work for a living, you build a house and give it to them. You just make a phone call. Okay, we have a house for you. Come and view it. We have built a house, and we think it's your turn to get a house. You give the house for the British people. They shouldn't pay rent. They shouldn't pay council tax on it. Money grows on food, on tree. If we have money to manufacture warfare, to produce, to promote violence around the world, we should have money for housing and for healthcare. Your doctor should phone you in the morning to check how you're doing, how your breakfast went. I mean, what did you have for your breakfast? How are you doing? The doctor should call you in the morning to say hi. Now, you phone the doctor and wait for 2 hours, and an administrator answers the phone and says, there is no doctor's appointment. The same with dentistry, same with housing, same with benefit. Benefit should go into your bank account. You shouldn't sign on. You shouldn't do all this rubbish. There should be one benefit for children, for adults, and for pensioners. If you want to divide it, divide at least child benefit and benefit for youth if you are so interested, and for adults and for pensioners. And they shouldn't claim it. It should be paid directly because the government has the statistics on everyone. You see, the cameras are there. If you litter the street, you are going to get a penalty charge. You don't have to ask the government, please give me penalty charge because I littered the street. The cameras are there to see that you have littered the street. If you don't pay your taxes, if you don't pay your rent, you will be actually written to. So if you're homeless, if you're actually penniless, if you don't work, the government should actually get that information from the HMRC, from the tax office. This individual is not working. We should send him 30,000 pounds per annum. And I even say pay it as a lump sum. And also train the British people to be expert on managing debt, managing their finances. Problem solved. It should be too complicated. Why are we really creating so much problem, so much complication? The rich are not now even resting. There is no peace for the wicked. Especially if you are multimillionaires, you are a multi-billionaire, and you are actually running away from yourself, being a multimillionaire because of security. Because we are at war. Wealth is weaponized. Let us conclude this segment. And after your interview, you usually get your first payment in 5 weeks after you submitted your claim online. So assessment period under managed migration, I've spoken about this before. This is actually the period where your universal credit starts and where it ends, during when you are moving from legacy benefit to universal credit, which is actually a modern type of benefit, so to speak. And this you can get it in less time when you actually claim as soon as possible between your deadline day and the final deadline. Deadline day is actually about 3 months, at the end of 3 months or thereabouts. That's when the deadline for you to migrate from legacy benefit to universal credit. That is the deadline day. And the final deadline is actually when the deadline day has expired, and then you ask for an extension, normally for a month. Then you get your deadline, a final deadline. After which you are in trouble, because if you don't really claim as soon as possible, your benefit is going to stop. You're not going to get universal credit if you don't claim it. So if you delay, because when you are actually notified of moving away from legacy benefit, your legacy benefit will stop. And you will be waiting for your universal credit, but you wait in vain if you don't claim within the deadline. So it is critical for people to understand this concept, which is extremely complex. It's like I'm talking to a rock, but I'm talking to people, because these things are really complicated. This is because your first assessment period starts on the deadline day, even after you claim nearer your final deadline. I've explained the deadline day and the final deadline. And so you migrate and you are notified, and your notice will say when your deadline day is. You so keep an eye if you are in benefit, but if you are working, also keep an eye, because you can lose your job anytime, especially these days with the crisis around. People can lose their job anywhere. Also, because the problem to do with employment law, and if you look at employment law, you will panic because it's so complex. It's such a terrible law. Yeah, if you are actually employed, and if you are an employee, that is something which you can look at. Maybe if you're a small and medium business, so the employment law is a problem. And I've said it elsewhere that the government should consider giving grants to employers who are actually poor. Investors in small and medium businesses should be given money by the government grant to complement their profit, so that their level of income should go up to £30, £30,000 per annum. We'll say this is from the top of my head. I'm not even an expert on pay. I'm not a member of pay review board who actually are causing havoc with the government as if they didn't go to school. I mean, you don't need to go to school to know people are poor, and to know that Britain is extremely rich, and it is common sense to get British people out of poverty in 5 years, in 10 years. Why do you make this thing complicated? Now, as I speak, it's so complex that because it is globalized, and it's no longer a simple fact of Britain deciding how its backyard, but it has to really link up with the rest of the globe to harmonize in a positive way. So, this notice will tell you, and the letter will be sent to confirm the new date. If there is an extension, like I said, if you pass the deadline day, and then there is also the final deadline, which is actually the deadline which you have to really do your best to migrate. It's migrating from legacy benefit to universal credit. So the final deadline is a month after your client, after your deadline day. So if you haven't sent all your evidence or agreed your claim and commitment, do this as soon as possible. If you don't, you might have to make a new claim. And that's what I just said previously. So if you don't think you will have enough money to live on while you wait for your first payment, you can ask for an advance payment on universal credit. I've mentioned that before in the other video. So the advance payment is a loan. That means you will have to pay it back, and you won't need to pay any interest. So that is a compliment, because it's a loan without interest. And you will usually get a single universal credit payment every month. This will be paid directly into your bank accounts, building society or credit union account. Find out your universal credit is paid, and it's your responsibility, it's your benefit. And if you're struggling with money, find out what help you can get with debt or rent arrears when you have applied for universal credit. Actually, rent arrears is a form of debt on your housing. And that's why I say people who are poor shouldn't pay rent. And they are right when they feel, if they're in debt, they shouldn't pay debt. The government they should go to the government and tell the government, I got into debt, pay it. Take money from rich people and pay my debt. You see, because they are getting into debt because they are poor. The government created poverty for them, so the government should pay your debt if you are. I'm not. This is not what you should try and do. Don't try this at home, because this is my opinion. And if you think you shouldn't pay any debt, leave a comment below. I agree with you, but that's not what you should do. You have to pay your debt if you actually. If you get into a credit situation, you have to really solve it, because it's your responsibility. But it's my opinion that it will become below if you think a poor person in being homeless should be given a home within 30 minutes. A permanent place should be waiting for every. I mean, even if they are on drugs. I mean, you want single parents, young people who have children, waiting for 10 years. Even living in a terrible condition, molded, a house in total disrepair, a mother with a son living in one bedroom house. She can't share a bedroom with our son because our son needs privacy. The government neglects them. The government neglect this kind of people. What kind of government is it? I mean to say, are you on drugs? We know street kids are on drugs. Politicians are not on drugs. Then what has bewitched them? Seriously speaking. I mean, what kind of... You hear politicians are now, our policy will be implemented in a compassionate way. You don't have to tell us you are compassionate. We are not stupid. We have to see what you do. If you allow people to be homeless in the UK, you don't provide public housing. The people in the UK, not one person in any day should be homeless. Because if you are in a privately rented place, you are homeless. The definition of homeless should be reviewed, should be changed today. If you have an MP and you're listening to this, don't neglect this. Go to your MP, tell them that, take this video to your MP. Tell your MP the definition of homelessness should change. Anybody who works for living, who is on benefit, who is on low income, who is classed as being poor, should not be sent by the government or by anybody to rent privately. It should stop today. All these people should be given a property. The government should build new houses and give it unconditionally to everybody who is homeless. Then they shouldn't pay rent on it. It is, I just don't want to use bad language, but it is so mindless in a rich country like Britain, like America, even in Asia, places like Russia, China. Why should people be homeless in places? At least I understand in Africa, because Africa is poor. But Africa is not really, they didn't go to school to be poor. He didn't have a qualification of being poor. We don't have professionals who are actually expert on poverty and to teach Africans to be poor. Africa should get themselves out of poverty. African government should work with the global governments to get African people out of poverty. Proper housing, proper food, proper energy supply. There is something called load shedding in Africa. That is so nonsensical. People stay in the dark. Like you are in this period of Stone Age. I mean, like, what is happening? What is going on? Let us just, get our acts together. And this should really stop, because we are better than that. So if you're struggling with food, to pay for food, you find out how to get help from the food bank. Food bank should close down today, because it is actually, it's evident of just, I don't know what these people are thinking. Food bank should close down immediately. And every family should be provided with a credit on their bank cards by the government to go and get food free of charge from supermarkets. And that's what every government should do around the world. Nobody should go without food in the world of today, unless we are so rude. I mean, if we are governments, if we are even wealthy people, we are so rude that people still go without food, especially in Africa. There should be a card. You go to any shop. This shop should be supported by the government if they are small and medium. If they are big, then these multimillionaires who make so much money from selling food should provide food for people who are poor for free. Food is being produced in the United Kingdom. 50%, over 50% is being thrown back into the field to run. What kind of evil is that? People are going, the cost of food is so annoying. And even food banks, these farmers are not giving food to food banks. Can you believe that? They throw food away to rot into their fields. How evil is that? Even supermarket, the food thrown away by supermarket can be given to food bank. They don't even do that. I mean, how nonsensical is that? People should be going to supermarket to collect free food. And I can go on and on and on. I have to stop. And the information here is tell DWP if anything changes between your interview and your first payment. For example, if you get a new job or you move house, check which changes you need to report. So say change of circumstances is necessary because universal credit is means tested. If you earn more money, you get less benefit. That's what they're talking about. That's why they wanted to they don't want to overpay benefit, because if you are overpaid benefit, you have to pay it back. I say to the British government that if benefit is overpaid, it should not be taken back. You take money from poor people. I mean, how wrong is that? How much is it? I mean, things like benefit sanctions should stop today. Overpayment of benefit rules should be changed. If you overpay somebody for some reason, just don't take the money back, because the money won't even be there. The money is so little, it won't even be there, because you dig a deeper hole. And sometimes the Department of Work and Pension make a mistake. And although the rules are there that if there is an official error, the overpayment should not be actually asked back. They should not be actually recovered. There are other overpayments which are unrecoverable. But in practice, the DWP actually still recover any, especially if they made a mistake. They recover it. The law says they shouldn't. And this is just a tip on the icing. I say any overpayment of benefit should not be recovered at all. And there shouldn't be overpayment of benefit in the first place. This is poor relations, poor efficiency, but if the mistake is done in one way or the other, overpayment should not be recovered at all. And the level of benefit should be raised to £30 per hour, £30,000 per annum. Leave a comment below if you think we are living in poverty because the government is failing us willfully, keeping British people out of poverty, which should change as soon as possible. And join me in discussing these situations. And I'm so happy you came. And we are going to talk to you next time we meet. We are going to talk about immigration in terms of universal credit claim, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed before. And talk about my channel, be an ambassador. If you are a small YouTuber, a big YouTuber around the world, give me a shout out so that I grow as a channel, so that we can work in partnership. I am so excited about the prospects, and experience being a YouTuber has been one of really satisfaction, and we are a work in progress. I'm so happy you came to actually attend, to actually watch my video. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye bye. Good morning, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is David Okun. Thank you so much for your support. And I'm talking about universal credit today. Like I have done previously, we are continuing from where we left. Last video, we reflected on life in the UK and across the globe, the financing, the income situation, relating this to the cost of living crisis. Remember, when I began this program, I began with the cost of living crisis, which is topical, which is actually relevant to every aspect of our life today. And I'm so grateful